talented naturally speaker. He always surprises in a very positive way. He do that tonight again? We don't know, but his title is Dress to Impress, the art of fancy dress. Welcome to the stage tonight, Sam.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mrs. Toastmaster, and good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Happy New Year to you all. I hope you've had a fantastic start to 2017, and are you enjoying some of those exciting moments that come with the start of a new year, or the possibilities that could be ahead for you. But it is difficult to ignore some of the limitations of a brand new year. You know, it's freezing out there, your bank balance took a hit over Christmas, and everyone's going on about these winter blues. Like a friend of mine the other day was going how she had a fantastic time over Christmas, loads of partying and whatnot, but now she was sad that the festive season was over. So I had to say, hold on a minute there, yeah? Life is one big festive season. You may get a few hangovers along the way, but it's all about creating fantastic moments and memories with the people that you love, right? And that's why I'm here today. That's why I'm here. It's to tell you about one of the best ways to create memories with the people you love. And that, my friends, is fancy dress. I'm glad I got that Y in because I'm not saying that word, I can't pronounce it. I'm obviously a tropical witch, that's what it is. So yeah, I'm going to give you 4 tips, tried and tested by myself and my good friends, on how to become a fancy dress pro and create those wonderful memories that will last your lifetime. And it's 4 tips, think of it as a rule of 3 plus a bonus for luck. Tip number 1, when invited to a fancy dress party, always dress up. None of this, oh, I'm too cool to dress up, or I don't want to look silly. Looking silly is the new looking cool. You heard it here first. You don't want to be this guy. Turns up to a house party, not in fancy dress. But lucky for him, he came to my house party, and in my house, we've got a drawer full of fancy dress, so we hooked him up. Look how much happier he looks there. So, at the house I lived in was with 4 other guys, and we just loved fancy dress. It's all we did all day long. It's just some of the stuff we got up to. But as you can imagine, the concern here would be that this could mount up in costs, paying for these clothes that you're only going to wear once. Therefore, tip number 2 is, you don't actually have to spend that much money. Making your outfit sometimes can have just as much of an impact as one that you buy. So can anyone guess who I am here?
Avatar.
Yeah, you go. Jake Sully. This chap right here. Obviously there's a slight difference there, but I mean, give me some props, that's a bit better, right? That said, when I was out and about in town, people going, oh, are you Papa Smurf? Really? But anyway, you can't win them all. But one person that does win them all is a good friend of mine named Matt Parker. He's the undisputed king of DIY fancy dress. Here he is, dressed as a legendary X Factor contestant, Wagner. A lot of you won't know Wagner, because you know, you're business people, you've got better stuff to do than watch X Factor. But this was genius. This was at the height of Wagner's 5 minutes of fame. So as we were walking through the streets, people going, Wagner! Hey, it's Wagner! And taking pictures with him. One person actually asked for his autograph, but so that was genius. And that leads me to my 3rd tip. If you're struggling for an idea for what to wear for fancy dress, don't be afraid to think outside the box. This is Matt again, dressed as a biscuit. A custard cream on either side. Custard cream biscuit, just so that. So, yeah, if you're stuck, think outside the box. And I've got a couple more examples of some other smart people that thought outside the box and did their own thing. So with this chap, which is 50 Shades of Grey, see that? Moving swiftly on. We got this chap, who's a Silver Surfer. Now, that, as ridiculous as that looks, it's actually quite difficult, and I know this because I tried. And after getting through about wrapping half my leg, got to a point where we thought, we're going to need a lot of foil to get the rest of me done. So we gave up. So yeah, don't try this idea though. But don't be afraid to do your own thing with the fancy dress, for sure. And that leads me on to my 4th and final tip. you don't have to wait for a party in order to do fancy dress. Like I said, the whole of life is a festive season, so why wait for a party? There's loads of events you can do these days where you can come in fancy dress. Good example being charity fundraisers. Of course, at Christmas there's going to be stuff you can do. This is a Santa run, which are, you have them in all cities, in London, Bristol, even Worcester has one. And then you've also got the London Marathon. London Marathon's got some iconic fancy dress outfits over the years, so there's something else you could do there with your friends. Or even Dragon Boat racing. This is what some of my friends did. Me and some of my friends did a bit of Dragon Boat racing in fancy dress. I even got a friend that went to work in fancy dress. His name's Chris, to promote a charity midnight walk. He doesn't work there anymore, but the two incidences are not related, I can reassure you. So that's just a point to make, that you don't actually have to wait for a party in order to be in fancy dress. And the whole point isn't to look good. The point is to, put a smile on someone's face, and if you do that, then you're successful. And just to reiterate the point that you don't need a party to wear fancy dress, I'm sure you'd agree with me in saying that the people who live life to the fullest, or an example of someone who lives life to the fullest and just knows how to have fun, are dogs and toddlers. And look at those faces, man. These guys are the masters of having fun. They are heroes in having a good time. They know that you do not need a party to fancy dress. They do not wait for a party to fancy dress, and neither should you. Now, the art of fancy dress is the art of living. Things ain't always going to turn out perfect, but we can always create moments of joy no matter what happens. Thank you.